Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's second half. Shall we? Alright guys, so I have had my share of experiences on this channel that I have heard and spoken with people about their experiences that kind of really have affected me. Jesse being one, Ron and his dad being another, just multiple. I mean, there's the poor woman in Bumpus Mills, but this one really kind of took the cake for me. I don't know why. During the process of this woman sharing this experience with me, first of all, I was talking to someone that was my mom's age, and to hear the pain in her voice actually did bring a tear to my eye. I don't know why. Jesse's did too, but this one really just hit me hard for some reason. And I don't even know and didn't know her or her husband, you know. There's a little county in Kentucky. It's no bigger than 20,000 people, the whole entire county. It's called Clay County. And there has been a multiple number of disappearances, strange and unexplained deaths. And her name is Georgia, and she truly believes that some of these deaths that are claimed to be murders are definitely not, because she saw how the law enforcement in that area works firsthand. First and foremost, this poor woman, her name's Georgia Baker. Her husband his name was Reginald Baker. And apparently back in the day in the Appalachia region, there were family blood feuds where it got real violent. And her husband's side of the family was part of this famous Baker Howard clan feud. I've never heard of it, you know, but down there apparently it's news. So Georgia and her husband Reginald had been married for quite some time, about 15, 20 years. And they ended up finally buying some property. And in 1987, they bought this little tract of land just outside of this region called Brightside, Kentucky. Once again, it's not, we're talking population maybe 1,500 total. And there's a creek that runs through this area. There's many creeks that run through the area, but the creek that her and her husband bought property around and on is called Powderhorn and Powderhorn Branch. And there's an old kind of dirt road out there. And, you know, this is the way of life out there. You buy some property and you know, you and your family, or your family builds a road for you, and you build your home and you live there, you live your life there. So her husband grew up in this kind of feuding clan war, and he grew up in the backwoods. There's still some very remote locations in the South today that almost seem unbelievable for us, but for, or, you know, us, I guess, you know, because I've never seen anything like what she explained to me, where her husband was raised and grew up in. So she met her husband very young, and they fell in love. Her husband did odds and ends. He was a good man. But, you know, the poor area that they lived in, they scraped and scraped by, and they eventually saved enough money to buy some land for real cheap in 1987. And they put up a house. It took them about a year for them to build this house. They were living at his family's home while they did their, you know, built their home. A way of life is your family works with you, and, you know, so she had heard throughout the years of knowing Reginald that there, during these kind of clan wars, this Howard Baker clan war, that there were times that some of these family members would run into Dogman. And there was a different name for them. She doesn't exactly remember the right name that they were called. I brought up Catamount, but she said, you know, that's more or less what they said about Dogman and Bigfoot and anything kind of undescribable, any kind of strange noise or strange sighting out there. That's the old Catamount. So Georgia remembers hearing all of this, family members being attacked, other family members being attacked. Apparently, at one point, this family blood feud had been put on hold in the 50s for a bit, until they could figure out what happened to a few of their family members. They'd actually gotten together and spoke about it. You know, this Howard Baker families came together and said, you know, there were a few of our family and your kin, and they were killed by something. What did it? We need to find out what did this. And the Dogman was the culprit, apparently. So their first year in their home was good. You know, it's you're in the deep Appalachia region. there's your nearest neighbor is at that point in 87 is miles away. She said that the bright shade is now, you know, a populace compared to what it was in 87. They had their first child soon after moving into their new home, and things were going as planned. You know, they just live life, and you know, you there's not much opportunity, unfortunately. So it's just live your life and be happy. Hunt, fish, family, God, this and that. Apparently, one evening, Reginald was coming home down this dirt road. He had an old pickup truck that he used to kind of collect scrap and stuff. And on his day of, you know, days of picking, he'd, you know, come back home, and, you know, then they'd drive out a couple hours or whatever to turn this scrap and metal in. You know, he did some logging periodically. He did whatever he could to make ends meet. Well, he was coming home. He had a full truckload of metal and just scrap. At the time, their home was all the way to the end of this little road called Powderhorn, and no other houses were on it. And he was almost to their house, and at this point there was no, this is interesting because at this point in 87, their home did not have electricity at that point yet. They had to wait until almost 1990 before power was put in. And so he was driving in, and he had seen this just monstrous canine human running down the road towards his house. It wasn't running through the woods. It was standing in the middle of the road as he was coming down, and it was staring straight at him in his truck. And as he was getting closer to it, it turned around and just started running down the road towards his home. No other homes on this road. And he gave it some gas, and as he got to his home, this thing just shot into the woods. Well, he gets out of his truck and runs inside and checks on his family, and everything's okay. This and that. And through the next couple of years, things were smooth. They had a couple of different kind of sightings with this Dogman or many Dogmen. Periodically, they would jump on the roof and to make themselves known. They had lost some chicken. They had some chickens. But for the most part, for the first couple of years, it was just here and there, you know. And power got finally put in, and apparently another house was going to be built kind of a ways away from them. They had the furthest end property, and so another home was going to be built on the kind of like entrance of Powderhorn. And that road is right off of this road called Mill Creek Road. And that's what they had to kind of wait for electricity. They're not going to put electricity down there for one house. So you got to have one or two, two, maybe three. But at two, they did run power out there. And so they had their first, which is so weird because in 91, you don't think, or 90, you don't think that some places in America didn't have power yet, which is so weird. He then got his CDL and he started doing truck driving. Their lives started getting a little better, and he was making a little bit more money. And Georgia has now got 3 kids. The first one, and then a set of twins were born in 89. So, she's taking care of their kids. They got a little garden and they've got chickens. So they're kind of self-sufficient, but he's got a decent job. He's making, decent money for that period of time and decent money for that area, especially. No way rich, but as she put it, we were family rich. And, at the kind of last week of June in 1991, things, for some reason, started to progress. For the family, there was another house being built in the middle between the house closest to Mill Creek and their home. And she thinks quite possibly that may be one of the reasons why. Local family, not outsiders. No outsiders were moving in to this region for, anything at that period of time. And, now every once in a while people from out of state do move for just to be that much closer to nature and stuff. But, so now at one point their whole chicken coop had been just ripped apart. Everything, they pretty much lost their whole source of meat and eggs at that point. And Reginald had a week off and he's gonna rebuild this chicken coop and, figure out what did this. They kind of had an idea of what did it, but so he's now building a better chicken coop, one that is not indestructible, obviously, by any means, but is gonna give whatever a run for its money. And he's cutting lumber and doing a lot of their own lumber. He apparently is that skilled that he could, do. He didn't have to go to a lumber mill. He could do a lot of it on his own. And his family members would come and help, And so one night he's got it all set up and it's done. He's gonna, get some more chicken from family and, other folks in the region that he can get them from, whether it be trade or whatever. Because even though they did have, he did have a decent job, it was all about, living, you know, bills. You know, she had a vehicle. He bought her a vehicle, an old station wagon that she was driving around. And so the night that it's done, he's out, you know, kind of looking at it. And they got an old spotlight, or not spotlight, but floodlight on the front porch that kind of was right there. He could shine it on this chicken coop, and he's admiring his, you know, work, and I can get some more chickens in there, and I don't think anything's going to break in. And he hears this growl, and he starts to look around, and where his tractor for tractor trailer, where his tractor is parked, his truck, he sees kind of some movement in the shadows of this floodlight. And he kind of yells, you know, get that hell out of here. You know, he doesn't think it's one of these creatures because it's just starting to get dark. And he goes up to the porch, and he comes back out of the house with his shotgun, and, you know, kind of yells out again, you know, get the hell off my property, yada yada. And he starts walking towards his truck. Now, where his truck is, her station wagon's parked, and then his pickup truck is parked. So the tractor trailer without the trailer is parked, and then her car, his truck, kind of side by side, three. He starts walking out that way, and he hears the growling, and it's coming from by his pickup truck, and he pumps his shotgun and yells, you know, get the hell out of here. Within a split second, he said that he saw the shadow, and there were eyes by his tractor trailer truck, just staring at him. From what he told Georgia, the eyes were almost as tall as the hood of the tractor trailer. And that scared him to no end. He didn't want to shoot because he was, you know, I don't want to hit my truck. I don't want to hit her car. But I don't want to see any more of this thing. So we ran inside, and, you know, Georgia said that that was one of the few times that he was real scared. And he kind of yells, get the kids, put them, you know, we're all going to sleep in our room for the night with our babies, and everyone will be safe. You know, in 94, his oldest child is, 4 years old? His twins are only 2. And so they end up sleeping in their room, and they do hear a lot of movement outside and some kind of movement on their roof of their house. From what she remembers, he had stayed up the entire night, and he didn't see anything after it was on the roof. A couple days go by, and it's back to work for him. And she's got to go pick up the chickens and get some stuff at the grocery store, which is, you know, a ways away, somewhere in Manchester, which is a city in Clay County. So she had driven out there, got what she needed. put her groceries away, or a little bit of stuff, whatever they got, and then put the chickens in this chicken coop, and kind of moved on with the night. He was due to be home in a day or two, and she'd hear kind of scratching on the outside wall, howling, grunting, and something on the roof. Well, that goes on for a day or two, and then Reginald's back for 2 days tops before he's got to go back out. She tells him everything that happened, and he's like, okay, she didn't want to look at the house, outside of the house, because she was scared by herself in this just, kind of empty road, 3 houses on this road. And he walks around the house to where she said she heard, kind of kicking or whatever. And there's claw marks all along the back side of their house, just kind of like it was just messing with her. And probably watching her because it knew, she's got kids. He's not there. So he gets scared at this point. They hadn't lost any chickens, but he's like, you gotta go to your families, take the kids and go. I want to see what really is going on. I got a couple days off. So she leaves, and he's by himself for 2 days. She doesn't know what happened in those 2 days. All she knows is in 2 days, she's driving down a road. It's now the first part of August of 91. And it's getting dark, but not really. It's about 6:30, but it's getting dark and darker than most at 6:30 in August because of the dense foliage of the trees all around them. So she's got her lights on, and she's driving into her driveway, and which is the end of the road. And she sees this from a distance. She sees this large kind of mass in the road, and she honks her horn, and because she can't figure out what it is, if he had fallen, or in her head she's thinking that her husband fell. What's going on? And this thing kind of raises up and is now off of her husband. And she realizes what it is. It's one of these Dogmen. So at this point, she sees this thing get up, and this kind of mass on the ground still. She puts her high beams on, and what she sees is one of these Dogmen getting off of her husband, who is, lying on the ground. She's still a distance away, and she very quickly did like a 4-point turn and was out of there. She was right back to her family's, and she's telling her, parents what happened. Her older brother that lives down the road from her parents, let's tell Reginald's family what happened. Let's, And she's like, no, we need to call the police. We need to get someone down there now. But, someone's got to come, we got to go down kind of as a team and leave the kids here with her mom. Because if he's there and he's hurt, we got to save him. So a few of Reginald's kin are contacted, and Georgia and her brother get in the car and they drive out. They meet Reginald's family, a few of his cousins and a brother or something, and they pull in, and he is deceased. It looked like the Dogman hadn't just killed him, but was now started to consume Reginald. So any kind of tender area on his body has been consumed. His innards, his inner organs are gone. He's got a big open kind of cavity. His legs have just bites. His arms are, it must have been one horrific death. And that's when she started getting tearing up. And then I started to, feel her pain. What sent her over the edge was her husband's face had been almost removed, and his eyes were gone. It was just a sight that she has never, ever forgotten. So they make the decision to keep two of his family members there. We gotta contact the law enforcement. And they do, and law enforcement comes out. Apparently, at that point in time, there's no need for an ambulance or EMS. And they call the county coroner, and the county coroner comes and picks him up. And the police department mark it as a animal attack. And they try to tell her, coyote could do this. Any kind of large cat in the area could do this. But she knew what she saw when she pulled in and what did this for real. So throughout the next, couple of days, she's not at their home. And she's contacted that her home is no longer livable. Now she hasn't even gotten to put her poor husband in their family plot, in her, her husband's family plot, the Baker plot there. And now she's told that her home is apparently had caught on fire. So the next day she drives in, and their house is just kind of like this skeletal structure of burnt wood, and not much is left. On top of, now she doesn't have a husband to help rebuild. The chicken coop looks like it had been torn in through the backside. Was also set on fire. Just this whole kind of section just set on fire. And she's, looking, her brothers, they're looking for any kind of memories, old pictures, whatever. And the brother, goes in of this skeletal structure and kind of feels around with his hand and realizes that, parts of the structure are still warm. There's, this must have just happened the same night that she was informed about her house being unlivable. And the brother screams something to her, and she kind of runs out in the back of the house into this kind of little yard they had where Reginald was going to build their kids' kind of a little playground with his family, wooden kind of playground. And there is these green kind of military tarps laid out, and these two bodies of dogmen are lying on these tarps. And she looks at her brother, and he says to her, it looks like they had been shot. It looks like there was, a mini war here. What the hell, Georgia? What's going on here? Why, And she's like, we have to go. We have to get out of here right now. I've got my kids are at my family's or our family's. Well, I got to figure out what I'm doing. I have nothing. Just nothing. Her whole life is just gone in a 2-day period of time. And they get back to her family's house, and about a day later, as she's still dealing with all this, they're now figuring out burial arrangements and all this. The autopsy was real quick. Wild animal attack. And there's a knock at the door. And it's one of the local police officers, accompanied by a very large Southern gentleman. And they're asked if they can come in and talk to Georgia. And oh yeah. And what she's told is that she is no longer allowed to live there. That she will be given some money for the property. That, we're going to buy the property from you. This isn't the police officer. This is this Southern guy who's, she's never seen before. And he's in, these greenish kind of khaki pants, boots, military looking boots, and green kind of shirt, t-shirt tucked in with a green kind of button up over that. No insignias, no badges, nothing. We'll give you money for your property down there, and we'll make sure that you're in a home, and that your kids are taken care of. As long as you don't mention anything. We've got enough going on in the area with, this family feud that popped off again for some reason. And don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And sure enough, she's given some money, and she has her family. She's a mom, a woman, no husband anymore. Her family builds this kind of small home, kind of almost attached to her family. Her family's home, her mom and dad's home, and so now she's living there, and she is told to forget about it. There's just so much going on. So now, throughout the years of this, there has been countless disappearances and countless unexplained deaths in Clay County, Kentucky, in that area of Manchester, Bright Side or Bright Shade, and still to this day, there are disappearances. I think she said last year there were over 6 people that disappeared, and that there are, air quotes, murders that she knows damn well weren't murders, and she knows damn well what killed these people. And these dogmen are running wild through this Appalachia region of Kentucky. And her life has, never been the same after that terrifying night in August of 91. Periodically, her kids didn't really even get to know their dad. 4 and 2. You can't, the love is there, but these poor kids will never ever, and they don't remember their dad, and they're in their 40s, early 40s now. And she's in her 70s and still lives in that area to this day. And there are still people finding or citing these things still out there in those woods. And that brings us to those people that are disappearing, those air quote murders, this and that. She believes 100% without a shadow of a doubt that these dogmen are doing it. And she probably won't, ever feel whole again. And that's when I kind of, just to hear the anguish in her heart. But when she described how that thing got off her husband, and then she got, other family members to come back with her to see his body and the shape that it was in. I don't even know. It's crazy. It's so sad. It's so friggin' sad that, and this is why I've really fallen in love with people that are in that region, the Appalachia region. And I've got, in my one of my theories is that these things are attracted to that region because of the poverty level and drug addiction level. And Reginald, yes, and Georgia were in, they were not wealthy at all. But it's just crazy. It's freaking crazy, this poor woman. And to hear how she talked about, her husband and her kids, and the poor kids never growing up with a dad. It was quite bothersome, I'll tell you that much. This poor woman. Guys, and it doesn't fit either, because I've always said the Appalachia region, these with poverty, drug addiction, mental illness. And Reginald didn't have a drug addiction. He wasn't mentally ill. I mean, he did have a job. It wasn't, a huge sum of money back then, but a decent amount. It's just a sad case, a real sad case. And I want to thank you, Georgia, for sharing that with me, because it was almost like my mom telling me this, You just hear the anguish in her heart. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed tonight's second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.